Thanks for joining us once again. Today we focus on sort of round two of our Elon Musk predicts the destruction of the shorts and his plans to get it done. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like some better ideas on trading, please join us on Patreon. A like and subscribe is also appreciated, and any questions are also appreciated. So we did kind of a round one of this show, and I had a chance to watch it a few times, and I appreciate all of you joining me. I have to say, though, that I was a little disappointed because one of the biggest challenges is that there's about 20% of our viewership that are some very heavy-duty analysts that know the markets well and know the subject very well. So it's very easy to get into technical terms that a novice does not know. So finding that happy medium can be challenging. So I want to note that if you're a pro in the industry, definitely after 7 minutes is a good time to join us, rejoin us, because most of what I cover on the front end is focused more on what the novices might want to see. So I wanted to start out today's show, despite it being primarily Elon's newest threat show, with a discussion about insider trading. So for those of you who are very serious about making money, very serious about what you're doing with your trading, I wanted to invite you to take on a little bit of homework. And what the homework is, there's a gentleman named Mr. Metz, who was a partner at Oppenheimer back 25 years ago. And there was an article in the Wall Street Journal where they discussed the fact that when he finished work every day on Wall Street, he would get in his limo and he would be riding uptown home. And for that entire period of time, he would actually watch the entire tape of the New York Stock Exchange for that day. So what do I mean by that? Again, you can literally load up on your computer or your cell phone every trade that occurred that day. And what's going to happen is once you start doing this regularly, there's a bunch of data flow you get in terms of trends that you can take advantage of, that you'll see. The one sort of jealous moment that I was fascinated by when he did his interview was he said, I've been watching the tape for so long that I can actually see insider trading before it happens. Which brings us to our conversation about Elon Musk. And what I wanted to focus on with Tesla and Elon is the fact that if you're a regular, half of you I know are large holders of Tesla. So I just want to point out that we started the process where we started seeing Tesla bubbling up into the 190s, then it crossed 200, and then it came back down, and then obviously it exploded. You'll notice that the title of my show for that day was Tesla is now crossed 200, 220 is next. And you'll notice that the first jump of day was over 220 into the 223 realm, and then we pushed above 230, and now we're in the 250s. So I'm bringing this up to you, and the reason why I did that show is that the more you watch the tape, you know in general what's happening in the marketplace, what is hot and what is not. But specifically, once you get deep enough in your command of certain companies and the trends of their stock price, you can kind of see where it's a great trading environment and it's a great time to buy when other people can't because they don't have the trend analysis that you do. And I do think that this is actually a really good use of ChatGPT and the capabilities of that to help you spot trends, particularly on stocks that you've chosen to focus on over time. So again, I definitely think it's a terrific watch. The next thing I'd like to review is that there are a whole bunch of Elon trends over time that we've covered on this site. One of those trends, there are a number of them, and And today we're kind of focused on what's going to happen relative to the shorts. Now, if you'll go backwards 2 years, just remember, actually it's 3 years now, Elon announced that he was looking at a 420 buyout of Tesla, and that he stated that he actually had the financing for that. Well, if you recall, the stock actually went berserk once he said that, up. And it's my belief that that move put a number of companies out of business, which is why Elon got sued for making the comment. And so what I've seen, noticed, and you've probably noticed as well, is that Elon has a habit of saying certain things that result in the destruction of shorts. And most of those things are positive comments about Tesla, about what might happen. The latest iteration of that is that Elon actually issued the latest threat about short sellers being very cautious if they choose to short Tesla. We actually did a whole show on it, you're welcome to check out, in which he described the fact that when he found out that Bill Gates was shorting his stock after he was working on, you recall, his solid state battery startup, he thought he could put Tesla out of business. Hence, he and his people shorted the stock. And so one of the differences between shorting a stock versus buying puts or calls on it is with puts or calls, you're limiting your potential loss to the amount that you put in. When you short, there is no limit on how much you can lose, or obviously there's no limit on how much you can gain. Those are the simplest examples that one could have about how you're issuing these instruments. But there are clearly a lot more complex ones out there. So the next thing I'd like to review is Elon and the gang seek large profits by forcing Tesla's stock price up. What do I mean by the gang? Well, now that we have a lot of ChatGPT and there are trading bots that are controlling a lot of the trading that we're seeing, what's starting to happen is as Tesla starts to move in a strong way in a certain direction, there's a lot of money to be made picking up each of those points. And so what I've noticed, and I think we're going to see more of, is one of the things that's been happening with Elon is when he makes a move on the shorts to destroy them, there are a number of bots and even individuals who now start riding that train where they keep forcing the stock price up, and that upward force can destroy a lot of companies that have shorted the stock, which is what he's looking for. So the only other addition to this that I would look at that's worth charting / using your ChatGPT for is the fact that when the most shorted stock on the market once again becomes Tesla, or Tesla is leading the pack in that regards, I believe that's when you'll see a high incidence of Elon going on the attack and working to destroy firms. As you know, Jim Chanos was one of the firms that he was able to wipe out of business as he kept shorting Elon stock. But there are others that have gone down that don't have as big a name as Mr. Chanos was before his firm was taken apart. So the bottom line is that, yeah, Elon knows what he's doing, and there are little techniques he uses to, I want to say, accentuate the destruction. One example that I wanted to raise today is CEO process. So many CEOs argue against the power of the shorts and what they're doing. But when it comes to Mr. Chanos / Elon Musk in this case, usually if the news is going to be particularly good, most CEOs would offer an olive branch by bringing key analysts in and newspapers and allowing them to be aware of the fact that the company is doing better than expected. And therefore, you might want to be careful if you short. You'll notice that Elon wasn't giving any warnings. He actually enjoys the fact that he's delivering better than expected news, and he knows the destruction that it'll cause, particularly to those working to put his company out of business. So this also brings up an interesting point that I found rather interesting that you might want to think about, which is Elon he's supposed to have 25% of the time devoted to Tesla. What we've actually come to find out is that the world of destroying shorts is a semi full time schedule. And because the largest portion of his wealth is tied up in Tesla, I believe that he's giving mind share on more than the 25% he has stated he would do in order to set up the possibility of the destruction of these shorts and therefore not being imprisoned to those shorts in terms of how well the company's going to do. The last thing I wanted to review today, and pardon me if I try to get a little bit technical just so that I think the quality of knowledge gain would be better, is I had asked you in our last show to take some time to learn about something called obviously ChatGTP, but using ChatGPT to go through the lessons that were learned when it comes to long-term capital management. So long-term capital management was a firm that raised between $5 and $10 billion, and they were doing some very sophisticated moves in the option markets across the globe. Now, the core logic of that firm was that they brought in a guy named Professor Black from Stanford. There's something called the Black-Scholes model, which is the model used to price options. So the whole idea of many of the big Wall Street firms is they'll recruit a whole raft of PhDs and use those PhDs to assist their trading departments, particularly their computer departments, in developing instruments and techniques for making money. In the case of long-term capital management, the structure was perfect. They had a lot of money. They had some of the best Wall Street veterans, along with professor scientists, to help figure out how to get great returns for investors globally. There was one little problem that they ran into, and that is that, in this case, there was a black swan. I'm referencing Mr. Taleb's book that you can find down low here. And so Black Swan trading moment came up when Russia defaulted in 1998. So now, remember the gang mentality that I talked with you about when it comes to traders? Well, what happened was that the Russian default triggered unusual trading activity, and that unusual trading activity resulted in gangs that were now able to move against long-term capital management. So you literally had hedge funds that had meetings with other large hedge funds, and they knew that would make a killing destroying long-term capital management's positions and therefore destroying their firm, but at the same time making money. So the level of destruction got so intense that we had markets that were shut down, and governments around the globe had to come in and institute new rules that would allow the market to not completely melt down based on the trading that was going on. So I wanted to introduce this to you because there is something called a black swan moment. We're now more than ever relying on computers, and I believe, therefore, we have more market meltdowns related to those computers that you'll see happening, and the key is you're being ready to take advantage of that based on your command of the value of the company or companies that you typically invest in, and being able to move quickly when these meltdowns occur. So I just think long-term capital, there's a book that I saw, there's a movie, there's all this stuff. And if you're a serious investor trader and you want to add things that will make you a lot of money, long-term capital management is a winner. And want to encourage you to spend some time imbibing as much as you can about them, because it's an awesome sort of teachable moment, and we're going to see more of those on pretty much a once a year, once every year and a half schedule, which allow you to make enough money during that period to cover your whole year of profitability. So, at any rate, at this point, I'm not planning on any more of our Elon has plans for how to destroy the shorts unless he is putting more of them out. I've actually learned that Optimus is actually consistently being expanded in the number of positions within the factory in Fremont that it's being used. So one of the things that I'm quietly expecting to occur is to see one or two other manufacturing companies decide to bring Optimus in and use it within their manufacturing facility. And as that occurs, I believe that's one of the ways that Elon may end up destroying the shorts, is because the value proposition of having all these computers working that don't require benefits is huge. And if it really works, as he's describing, I think there are a lot of other places that are going to want to do this, especially places with high labor costs. I'm thinking about the food industry in California in particular, but there's a whole bunch of situations where this would be appropriate. At any rate, once again, I want to thank you for joining us for our formal portion of this. Next, as usual, we like to move into our health tips for the day. After going through a crazy sleep period because fireworks and neighbors were not good, I just want to remind you to ask you for 2 weeks of going to bed and waking up at the same time daily, because I think you'll find it'll give you an excellent circadian rhythm that your body can sink into and therefore enjoy and be healthier in the process. Finally, again, I want to remind you that about 70% of the doctors we surveyed, and we surveyed about 200 docs, are actually all doing some sort of fasting. The simplest fasting that I think is out there is simply to eat on half of the calendar. So a 12-hour period where you're eating, a 12-hour period where you're not, gives your body a break. And finally, just a reminder, highly recommended by the kidney docs that I spoke with, that you consider doing a couple of 3 days a week of no meat to give your kidney a rest. And that also I think you'll find to be helpful. At any rate, once again, thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Inside. Please remember to like and subscribe. Tschüss, au revoir, lahitro, hoda hafez, drasite, ni hao ma. And in Jamaica, we say, enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. And bye for now. Namaste, arrivederci.